What's up, YouTube? ODST General back again with some more Stormworks, and today, guys, we're going to be doing things a little bit different. I want to talk about the new Industrial Frontiers DLC that just released for it. It's like a $10 DLC at full price. It's on sale right now, or at least it was. It's been a few days since this is out. I don't know how long the initial sale is going for, so by the time you guys actually watch this video, it might have already gone off sale. But I want to talk about all the stuff that came out in this DLC, and also some of the issues I've had with it, because I've had some issues, and it could be improved in some ways. And this is all stuff I think that can be addressed by the developer, but some of it I kind of got a question, like, what were they thinking here? What was the, I don't know, what was the thoughts on that, I guess, but, yeah, as far as features, the new map is huge. It's like double the size of the original map almost, or the original main island. It's not quite double, but it is very large. Um, and yeah, it's a big open desert. There's a lot of like rocky plateaus, and as the name also suggests, there's a lot of industrial buildings, industry stuff. They've added mining into the game, so you have a bunch of different minerals you can now mine besides just like coal being in the game. They've now got aluminum, steel that you can get. You can get, I think, iron is in, gold is in. Uranium, which you need the uranium to actually fuel the uranium reactors, and they've added stuff to older parts of the map, so there's like refineries that you get the minerals refined from, and yeah, they've added more wildlife in, so there's like bears and wolves that are aggressive animals that'll attack you. They've added in dogs that will actually, you can order around and they'll help you look for survivors and search for victims and stuff like that. Just a bunch of stuff and some other random wildlife. It is a really cool DLC. It adds a lot of awesome stuff. The new island is really, really neat. There's tons of train tracks and roads that go all over it. They generally feel a lot easier to navigate, at least the roads do, compared to the previous island. However, there is, like I said, some issues and some hiccups, so I want to talk about that here. So, you guys are going to see some clips cut in, not everything I recorded, because I recorded like hours and hours of this, or I played hours and hours, but I didn't record a lot of what I played because I ran into a lot of issues. Preceding this DLC, about a week before, there was a train DLC, or train update, I should say, which updated steam engines, put in steam pistons, which look really awesome, and put in new like train wheels and everything. But the train tracks in this are super buggy. I guess part of that update caused it. So I ended up finding some gold, and I mined the gold, and you get little nuggets from the gold from mining it. Now, I've seen some people try to put those into hoppers. There doesn't really seem to be a good way to collect these resources as you mine them. That's kind of the biggest issue I've seen, is really it seems like the best way to collect it is just grabbing each piece individually as you mine it by hand and then putting it into the hoppers, which is tedious at best. And you're potentially losing some. I guess if you modified some hoppers and you put the hoppers next to it as a collector wherever you're mining, maybe you could collect them that way. It doesn't seem like it would work very efficiently, but I guess there's a possibility. You can do that. So that's what I did. I mined a bunch of resources, though. I put it in by hand, and I just put them into a dump truck. And I was looking at the map, and I mined them on, basically the most western part of the map. And I got some gold nuggets, and so I took those gold nuggets and I put them into a dump truck, and I was looking at the map, and I was like, okay, well, I've got to basically go to the other side of the map, or at least like halfway across the map, to get to where I need to put these gold nuggets. It's like dirty gold nuggets. You have to go wash them like you would real gold. And so I was like, that's a long drive, and my experience of driving in Stormworks isn't the greatest. I've crashed a lot of cars. So usually I feel like boats and trains are safer modes of transportation, a little bit more surefire. Planes usually pretty good. I'm a little less good at landing on myself, but still better than cars. So I take my dump truck, and the dump truck drove pretty good. But I took it over to the train tracks. I spawned in a train and some train cars and some mineral hoppers and stuff, and I drove the train to where I had my dump truck. Now that took me some time in of itself, because the first train I got ran okay, but I ran into some issues where my train cars were catching on the environment. So I had to go back, spawn in different train cars, respawn the train, come back, go. I finally got to where my dump truck was. I had to, again, hand load transfer all the stuff, all the dirty gold nuggets I had in the dump truck to the train car. And then it took me so long to do all that the train I was using ran out of water and it didn't have a way to refill it. So I decided, you know what? This is not working with this train. I want to get a different train. So I got a different train, but this train I replaced it with was a slower moving train, and this is the one you guys will actually see in the video clips. You'll actually see me swapping out the trains because I recorded that bit, and it had a higher torque. So I figured, okay, well, its top speed's like 30 kilometers an hour, which it's like less than half the speed of the other train, but it's got a lot more torque, it's got a lot more pulling capability, so because I've got this car full of minerals, I'll take that, and that'll work better. Well, it went even slower. Well, only would go like 10 kilometers. But I still ended up sticking with it, and I just slogged around the map with my new train car and my single car of minerals, which only had like, I don't know, I think 130 minerals or something like that. I can't remember the exact amount or the exact number. So then anyways, I took that down, and I started going around the map with it, and again, I ended up basically running into issues of the train getting stuck on seemingly random points, you know, just going down a hill or something like that. There was nothing getting caught on the environment. It was just getting stuck on the train tracks. So there seems to be some sort of bugger issue with the train tracks, which some people have said has been an ongoing issue, but it's not personally something I've really had seen prior to this. Individual trains by themselves seem to be working okay, but with connected cars, it seems to be where I'm running into the issues. So after I got maybe halfway to where I was trying to get to, I gave up, and I tried swapping out to a different train, and just nothing was working. So finally, I had to take the dump truck that I initially had started with, despawn that, respawn it in, take that to where my train was, load up all of my, dirty gold, and then drive that to the gold hopper. I initially had started off just taking the gold and teleporting back and forth, which was kind of quicker to an extent, but even then that wasn't really efficient, because once you get to the gold cleaning machine, that's where the other issues started to arise, is once you actually get to the machines and transferring your minerals that you have mined to the actual industrial buildings. Now, there is already in place some community created content, which I found after I recorded this video, which would have made this stuff a lot easier. But from the vanilla game standpoint, I have to wonder what the Stormworks devs were thinking. So you get to the first industrial building, and that is the gold washing machine if you're doing gold. And in order to get the gold washed, you have to put 10 chunks of dirty gold ore into this machine to wash it, which will then give you a unrefined golden nugget. So for every 10 ore, you get one gold nugget. Now, the issue is that this gold washing machine, it's probably 20, 30 feet off of the ground, and you have to basically climb up to it on foot, and you have to go up several ladders just to put in the gold. The issue is you can only carry 4 chunks of gold in your hands. So in order to do this without having a vehicle either special made that's going to lift up your mineral hoppers and be able to dump it out like a forklift or something, or just carrying the gold up by hand, you don't really have a way of transferring it up aside from that. Again, there's environmental mods out now that will make it easier to access that stuff. So you don't need to worry about that, but the base game, it's awful. So I basically had to go up, and for every single nugget, I would have to make like 3 trips up this hopper. It varied a little bit because I would have like 2 left over. So, after so many trips, I would basically get, an extra nugget just kind of by default. But yeah, I would have to go up several times. Well, the issue is that once you have the golden nugget, at least, you can't just then turn around and sell that golden nugget. You then have to turn the golden nugget into a golden ingot. So after you've washed all of your gold, you then have to take it down to another location. And so you know, again, I have all my gold in my hand and stuff, so I'm just teleporting it down to where you would wash it, because the issue is I can't just dump all of the gold into the gold washer, so I still have unrefined gold, or I should say dirty gold ore, inside my thing while I'm getting the unrefined gold nuggets. I'm having to teleport those back because I can't put them back into the truck. And I need my inventory so I can carry the most stuff up to the top of this thing. So I'm having to teleport back down to the place where you basically refine the metals into an ingot, and then having to teleport back. Now, really, ideally, you would have a second vehicle, because the other issue with these gold washing machines is it just automatically spits out once you reach to 10 your minerals. So if you don't have a second vehicle in place to catch this stuff, you're potentially going to be losing gold nuggets. So it's problematic, to say the least. The whole system just initially, right, pretty much as soon as you get to the first industrial part, is really flawed, at least for gold. I haven't done like iron or aluminum or anything else, so those systems might be a little bit better, but the accessibility of gold, terrible. Absolutely terrible. So then I get down to, you know, getting all that done, get my gold refined, and I get my one single non-purified golden ingot. So it takes like 100 gold, I think, to get a single golden ingot. And that one golden ingot goes for, and the prices vary, I think, a little bit, because I'm not sure if the prices fluctuate up or down, but it's like 1,183 in-game dollars is what's currently going for me. Now, if you can get a refined golden ingot, those are worth 15,781, but I'm pretty sure you need like 1,000 gold to get that single refined golden ingot. I'm not 100% certain on the numbers. I didn't get that far. It might only take 5 refined gold nuggets to be able to get to that. I'm not sure. But it's definitely not just one. You can't just take your one golden ingot and take it to the refining place and the purification lab and get that one golden ingot refined. You have to get enough golden ingots that are unrefined in there to get your actual refined golden ingot. So yeah, the whole system is definitely a nightmare. I ran into a lot of issues. Again, the train tracks not working, preventing me from taking this stuff by rail, which would have been the easiest. Then just the accessibility of these areas. I mean, like I said, the gold washing machine, again, not convenient, because it's not by the train track. So if you're transporting this by train, you're going to need a vehicle anyways to get up to where it's at. 2, once you're actually there, it's not even convenient to get it in by truck or anything. You're going to have to actually take it out by hand to handle this stuff in anyways, unless you have a specially crafted vehicle. Then you get down to turning it from washing it after you've mined it, and you get down to the metal ore foundry, which is where you turn it into an ingot. And there's no hoppers underneath the train tracks. There's train tracks all over the place, but the hoppers are next to the train tracks, which means, again, you're either having to unload it by hand, or you're going to need a train that has a hopper that can swivel out or something, or a car that can tip over and dump out the ingots that way and basically shoot them out onto this hopper. Instead of them just putting the hopper into the train track, so you could just dump it straight down, which is what pretty much every mineral or coal car already in the game does, is it shoots it down under the car. And then you get from there, and then you get to the purification lab, and that's where you would get your gold ingots turned into purified gold ingots. And again, by default, no hoppers on the train tracks, so you have to have a vehicle. And then by default, again, when you put the stuff into one hopper, it just automatically starts dropping out of another hopper, so you need multiple vehicles. And here's the issue, is that this is going to be something people will probably do in custom, like I did, just to play it for fun. But from the aspect of a campaign, a career mode, where you're trying to do this industrial DLC, it's not viable. You need multiple vehicles at multiple locations, and trains aren't functional, so you need to have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of, dollars in the game and all the parts and stuff unlocked to be able to do this in the first place, to make it even viable. And even then, I don't know, I got my gold bar, and it felt so unsatisfying. I love the new island. The new island's great. I love the wildlife. Um, I like that the roads are more accessible. There's new pieces. I love the new train stuff, but from a practical standpoint, there is really not much going on here. And this is something I feel has kind of plagued Stormworks for a while, is that there's a lot of cool sandbox elements to the game. There's cool areas in the game, but from a actual career standpoint, an actual survival standpoint, there isn't much reason to go and do a lot of it. It's not accessible to do a lot of it, or practical to do a lot of it. And that's kind of where the issues lie with it. And I'm hoping this is something the devs can address. Like I said, the train track thing seems to be a bug. I'm hoping it's a bug they can get fixed and everything. I assume it will be. It's a matter of time. And again, with environmental mods, there's things that improve the accessibility and address the exact complaints I had about the industrial buildings and stuff being difficult to access with, the vehicles that are in the game already that the community have created, without creating specific kind of goofy custom assets to access that stuff and be able to make it less tedious. And yeah, I just I don't know. And yeah, there's the whole point of the game is to get creative and stuff, but it's so tedious, and it's just not really accessible, again, to anybody who's just starting out, or viable to anybody who's just starting out in a career mode to actually do any of this. And that's where my issue is. So I'm hoping that the devs will add vanilla tweaks so that the community doesn't have to cover the gaps, or players won't have to go on search the workshop for environmental mods, because that's the other thing as well. It's great that there's options for the community to get out there and make the stuff more viable, more accessible, and improve it in various ways. Not everybody in the community is going to think to look for that stuff, and that's not going to be everybody in the community's first experience in all likelihood. And most people are going to experience the vanilla first, and that's going to be a turnoff. It's going to look bad for the game. So even if there's better alternatives out there for them, without you presenting them to the player in a readily visible package, it hurts things. And that's kind of what's happened here, I think, in my opinion. And again, it's a shame, because the new island is really awesome. There's a lot of unique areas. There's a bunch of beaches all over the place, which are more easily accessible than the beaches on Sawyer Islands or any of the smaller island chains from the original game. So if you have amphibious vehicles, it's a lot easier to get on to these islands with amphibious vehicles. There's radiation leaking from one of the plants here. There's a nuclear plant with radiation where you have to wear a radiation suit. There's, a space observatory. And again, a bunch of industrial buildings with actual functionality. It's really cool. They've gone back and added functionality into the old game. So there's refineries up in the Arctic. And there's mining for some of these. Actually, I think some of the new resources on Sawyer Island as well. It's just, man, guys, it's not been a great experience for me so far, to be honest with you. So I am really hoping that the developers of Stormworks can address some of these flaws, some of these issues. But again, I do, at least in concept, I like the DLC. There's some great new parts in here. There's, some of this is going to be free update that came with the game as part of the DLC coming out. Some of it's the island itself. Like I said, the new island looks gorgeous. It's massive. It's a giant new play area. There's a lot of cool new bases. There's gas stations all around the map, which makes it viable to drive across the map with a vehicle. The roads are easier to traverse. At these various gas stations and points throughout the map, there's additional workbenches, so you can spawn in vehicles around the map a lot easier, some of which aren't marked as a base. You'll find gas stations that aren't marked as bases, but they'll have workbenches that you can access, which is wonderful. It's fantastic, but definitely some tweaking needs to be done in terms of the train tracks, and in terms of actually making these industries viable for new players looking to start careers off. And I think that's something that's kind of plagued the game. It's the same with coal. Coal kind of had this issue too, which is it's not the most viable thing to actually make a career out of. A lot of people bash the game for having moved away from the rescue aspect of it and how difficult water is and making boats and stuff. But at least in my mind, that is still the easiest thing to go into career mode and do. It's the easiest thing is just to go out on the water, rescue somebody from a burning boat or a sinking boat, and return them back, tow their vehicle back. That's the easiest thing to do in the game. It's the most accessible thing to do in the game, and the mining and stuff will really neat and providing a wonderful new avenue of play for players, just not the most viable. Some of the missions in the game need to be tweaked and reassessed, and hopefully that's something the devs will do. Is they'll take a look at career mode again, and they'll make it much more easily accessible, make it easier for the player base, maybe even to go out and create series of missions and stuff which can be added in. Sorry guys, I still have this ongoing cold. It's been here with me forever and just won't go away. I've been trying to stifle a cough a couple times, which you guys probably heard. But anyways, make these missions more accessible and stuff like that, and fix these bugs and stuff. And they need to hopefully stay a little bit more on top of addressing some of these bugs. There's bugs with the fuel lines and stuff too. I mean, there's a lot of issues, and again, this is by no means the most expensive DLC. It's a massive new island. They added a ton of stuff. It's a great price point for the DLC. It's a great new island, and the DLC itself is pretty solid, but there is a lot of issues with it, which should have been addressed and should have been caught during quality assurance. And, I don't know if they need like a set group of players, trusted players in the community who sign an NDA and say, hey, we'll test this for you, but we won't show it off to the community, we won't leak it, and if we do, we can we're signing off that we're willing to get sued or whatever, pay financial compensation for damages, something like that, and push it out to your trusted community members so they can address these issues and be like, hey, maybe you should put the hoppers on the train tracks instead of next to the train tracks, or maybe don't put this hopper 30 feet in the air where no vehicle in the game can go that high unless it's a forklift with hoppers on it, which I don't know if any of those exist in the community, but I didn't see any. They're certainly not good looking or popular vehicles, so that's just my thoughts on it. But anyways, I do still recommend more or less the DLC. It's got some issues, but I do recommend it because, again, the new island is an awesome play space. Even if you're not doing the industrial stuff, it is a fantastic new area to explore and play around in. Driving cars and stuff is much easier. Trains, when they work, I think are going to be fantastic. There's train tracks all over the island. Tons and tons of switches, big rail yards that are in place in the game. So, they're pretty barren right now, but I think those are okay areas where, it's rail switches and stuff like that. That's not necessarily stuff you need to have a bunch of stuff in, with the switch yards and stuff, but they're great places for environmental mods from the community to put some additional buildings and stuff in. So, at any rate, guys, have you guys played the new DLC? And if you have, what are your thoughts on it? And if you haven't, again, I recommend checking out the video. I'll probably throw in some B-roll footage. Right now I'm just recording this as audio only. I know I've already got some B-roll. I'll probably need some more. But let me know what your thoughts are on it, regardless of whether or not you played it. And let me know what you guys' general experience is with War Thunder in career mode. Alright, guys, thanks for watching the video. Take it easy. I'll see you all in the next one.